The night of the Whitmore Fortune Group Gala was supposed to be a celebration of power, legacy, and inevitability, the kind of evening that Charlotte Whitmore believed existed solely for people like her, a glittering heiress born into marble hallways, silver cutlery, and bloodlines whispered about in country clubs where names mattered more than ideas. And from the moment she stepped onto the crimson carpet rolled across the Grand Astoria Hotel's ballroom floor, her chin lifted a fraction higher than necessary, her smile rehearsed to the point of cruelty. Charlotte knew she was not merely attending but presiding over history, for tonight was to be the unveiling of the $900 million merger between her family's multigenerational empire and Harlow Enterprises, a titan in the tech and innovation industry whose reach spanned from Silicon Valley to Wall Street. And though Charlotte had never contributed more to her family's business than approving guest lists and posing for magazine covers, she wore the sense of ownership like a crown, believing herself untouchable, the chosen successor, the inevitable queen of fortune. The ballroom shimmered under chandeliers imported from France, each crystal catching the golden glow of recessed lights, while servers in black tuxedos floated between the elite carrying trays of champagne, oysters, and caviar that gleamed like black pearls on beds of crushed ice, and the orchestra's violins hummed soft melodies that blended with the murmur of conversations, laughter, and deals whispered in corners where fortunes could change with a handshake, yet even amidst the decadence. Charlotte's eyes sought out every guest with a predator's instinct, evaluating couture dresses, polished shoes, jewelry, and posture, classifying each individual by usefulness or irrelevance, a habit taught to her not by school but by her mother, Eleanor Whitmore, who had once whispered into her ear during a charity ball that, "The rich are not people, darling, they're investments or liabilities. Decide which one before you waste a smile." Charlotte had perfected that advice, smiling only when she calculated gain, and tonight she calculated everything, from which media outlet would photograph her most flatteringly, to which hedge fund managers might push her stock value higher with mere association, to which young socialites might envy her enough to whisper her name tomorrow. But in her ruthless scanning, she noticed something unusual, a detail that grated like sandpaper on her otherwise perfectly orchestrated evening. At the front table, not far from the stage where the official announcement would soon be made, sat an elderly black woman dressed not in sequins, diamonds, or shimmering silk like the other guests, but in a modest navy blue gown, her silver hair neatly pinned, her jewelry understated, her hands folded on her lap with the quiet grace of someone who had nothing to prove and nothing to fear. And though many eyes had drifted to her with curiosity, few dared to comment, but Charlotte, spoiled by a lifetime of indulgence and never told no, leaned closer to her circle of equally entitled acquaintances and allowed her lips to curl into a smirk as she whispered, though her voice carried just enough to be overheard by others, "Who on earth let the help sit with the investors? I didn't realize tonight's guest list included." Well, charity cases, and the ripple of cruel laughter that followed from her companions felt to Charlotte like the natural order of things, a confirmation of her superiority, though around them several guests shifted uncomfortably, aware that a line had been crossed but unwilling to challenge the woman whose family's fortune and influence dominated half the room. Charlotte leaned back in her chair with satisfaction, sipping her champagne as though she had delivered the evening's wittiest remark, unaware that her words had been heard not just by strangers but by the very woman she had mocked, who did not flinch or lower her gaze but instead held Charlotte's eyes for the briefest of moments, her dark irises sharp and steady like polished stone, her silence heavy enough to cut through the music, before she returned her attention to the stage as though Charlotte were nothing more than a spoiled child throwing tantrums in public, and that quiet dismissal, that refusal to be rattled, stoked something unfamiliar and unsettling deep in Charlotte's chest, though she masked it quickly with another laugh, brushing away the moment as inconsequential, because in her mind this woman could not possibly matter, could not possibly belong to the grand narrative of billion-dollar mergers and dynastic power plays. She was, Charlotte thought with cruel finality, an intruder in a world too refined for her. Yet as the evening unfolded and speeches began, Charlotte's certainty would begin to crack, for every time the MC introduced a new dignitary or lauded a contributor to the partnership, the elderly woman's presence loomed larger, her calm composure contrasting against Charlotte's restless arrogance, and though Charlotte did not yet know her name, her identity, or the weight she carried in the world of business, Fate had already set the stage for a reckoning that would shake the walls of the Whitmore Empire, strip away illusions of power inherited without merit, and remind the heiress that the true measure of class and strength could not be bought, inherited, or faked, but only earned, endured, and commanded. And before the night ended, Charlotte Whitmore would find herself frozen in the ruins of her arrogance, a $900 million empire crumbling around her because of one careless, cruel sentence spoken in a ballroom that would remember her humiliation forever.